Hey, what's up, everybody? I know it's the holidays. I know you're expecting us to bring you cheer and good tidings, Yule tidings, whatever the hell Yule tidings are. Apparently, though, we're bringing some coal for all of us MMA fans because Khamzat Chimaev versus Leon Edwards is off yet again. Khamzat has tested positive for coronavirus, and we now don't have a fight for the January 20th card. Mr. Wells, well, how do you feel about this?
I mean, listen, I've kind of given up hope for this fight. I kind of have because it's just been like I'm giving up hope for pretty much any fight with Leon Edwards' name in it right now. I mean, we were supposed to see him way back in March of going soon to be last year, right?
Yeah.
But the pandemic has screwed up everything good in MMA this year. And this is just one of those things where initially I hated this fight. And then I started to warm up to it and got excited about it. And now they're taking it away again. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's really frustrating because just when I was warming up to the idea of this ridiculous matchup of a guy getting to just shoot up the ladder this quickly, he has to pull out of the fight. It's very, very unfortunate.
Yeah, and again, to put in your words, because I like the way you phrase that, I wasn't super excited about this matchup either initially, right? It seemed like the UFC had kind of bullied Leon Edwards into taking this fight or losing his ranking. Yeah. They got the deal done. And then the more we hyped it up, the more we looked at Khamzat's performances, the more we became CNN, the Chimaev News Network, the more it just got, more exciting and more, again, is Khamzat going to live up to the hype here? Now that we're canceled again for a second time, I'm with you that I don't think a third fight is inevitable. Is it possible? Yes, but at this point, Leon has called out Jorge Masvidal, which I would love as a short notice replacement. Don't know that we're going to get that done, but that'd be great. Sense. Yeah, it would make a lot more sense ranking wise than Chimaev versus Edwards. But I'm also, even if that doesn't get done, let's say Edwards is off the card, I don't know that they are dead set on getting this matchup together. I think there are other options for both fighters that they can do, depending on what works out timing wise. I think they could get something together there. Another person that I think might be a good step in for Edwards, and let's just segue straight into that. Although before we do, please make sure you hit that like button. Please make sure you hit that subscribe, hit that notification, be one of the elite 10% that gets to know when we're dropping videos as they come out. So please hit all those buttons. We really appreciate it. We're almost to 1K. Get us to 1K, baby. We're trying to get there. But anyway, I digress. Let's dive into potential matchups for Edwards should he stay on the card. One that jumps to mind for me is somebody who just fought on December 19th, looked really good, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Didn't really take him much damage at all, came out pretty much unscathed, put on a clinic against Jeff Neal. If he's good to go, this seems like a prime opportunity to make that matchup happen. Do you like that? Do you think there's somebody else that Edwards should fight instead?
I mean, yeah, if Edwards can fight and actually, can get to the States, get to Vegas or, fight, whenever they do this, want to bring him, if he can get there with no COVID issues, make it happen, find an opponent for him. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson would be great because it makes more sense for the rankings. I love that. I love that matchup. It's stylistically be interesting to see. To see how Edwards could deal with that style. And, it's a fight that you could really call a title eliminator. You put that match together. I mean, you would say the same thing for the Chimaev versus Edwards, I would hope, right? I know if Chimaev won, they would definitely put him in a title fight for his next outing because that hype train was just rolling on strong. But with Wonderboy, he would have to go out there and finish Edwards, I think, because he's had title fight after title fight after title fight, just come short every time. I don't know if the UFC would be as quick to put him in another title fight. I would hope so, because, you go up there, if you're up there and you're winning fights still, how many how many fights are you going to make a guy wait before he gets another crack at the title? That's where things get a little tricky when you have a guy that's lost every opportunity he's had. So I do like that matchup, just on paper, skill wise, everything like that. I do also like the idea of throwing Masvidal versus Edwards together, because there's history there. You know, one of the most viral moments of the past, year, right? Or what is it? That was in 2019 when that happened, right? The 3-piece in a soda. So that whole thing, I mean, listen, there's a backstory there. You can throw that on a promo, boom, everybody remembers everything. Oh yeah, they had beef way back then. Sells itself, right? And they've got their little back and forth on Twitter as well, and other interviews that they've done, their little sound bites. There's a lot there. So if you're looking for a fight that's easy to sell, it's that one. But just a solid matchup for the rankings as well. Do Wonder Boy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Masvidal makes more sense from a business perspective, because you either get Edwards, going out there and beating Masvidal, who has kind of gotten, a little bit of that superstar status in the past year and a half, 2 years or so. If Edwards goes out there and soundly decisions him, I mean, that rubs off on Edwards probably. It gives the UFC a reason to put Edwards in a title fight, say, okay, you're on this crazy winning streak. Now you've just beaten Masvidal. Let's go ahead and put you in for the belt. I like Wonder Boy versus Edwards a little bit more, just because, again, stylistically, I think it's a more fun fight. And I think that it makes more sense given where Wonder Boy and Edwards are. Masvidal, if he beats Edwards, is he going to get a rematch against Kamaru again right away? I mean, you got Colby Covington there versus Masvidal, which is a juicy matchup all in of itself. I love that matchup. It's got a little bit more history that's recent, I guess, compared to the 3-piece of the soda, although either works. But the downside to Edwards versus Thompson is that it could end up being a very not boring, but technical fight that will not draw the casual audience. And the UFC doesn't want that. The UFC doesn't want to say, hey, what are you guys is going to get a title shot off of this? It's part of the reason they've put Thompson in the position they have. And in some ways, they put Edwards in that position too, in kind of being a gatekeeper for the new up-and-comers. If Jeff Neal had gone out and blasted Wonder Boy Thompson, you'd best believe he'd be right up in the title picture. He'd probably be one win away, or maybe even be waiting in the wings if Chimaev had beat Edwards, and then you do that first and then let Neal in after that. But I think if Thompson or Edwards wins that, the UFC doesn't necessarily want to see either of them in a title fight, depending on how that fight goes, because it could be very much a, if it's Wonder Boy, do we really want to see Wonder Boy versus Usman and have it turn out like Wonder Boy versus Woodley 2.0? That's kind of the problem here. So the merit-based person in me says Edwards versus Wonder Boy. The business side says you got to do Masvidal versus Edwards.
Yeah, and there's some people screaming at the screen right now saying that Thompson shouldn't take another fight before he gets a title shot too. There's some people that feel that strongly because we haven't seen Usman versus Wonder Boy. It's a fresh matchup too. But I mean, listen, if they're going to throw Wonder Boy into another fight, just go ahead and stick him in there against Edwards if he's ready. If they can make that happen, there's interesting clashes of styles there. But like you said, that fight could very well be a 5-round. Like if it's a main event, I don't know, like a main event of a fight night card. It could very well be just a technical, back and forth, like stick and move type thing for over 5 rounds, where it's not a lot of significant action happening, where it feels just like a step above a sparring match. And those are fine on the night of the fight sometimes, because you have guys that, like, both of them are capable of ending a fight. Does it happen all that often? Not really. But that's why you watch a Wonder Boy intently over the course of 5 rounds, because he can throw a spinning kick out of nowhere and a guy's just laying on the canvas. Does that give you a lot of replay value? No. Are you going to be excited to, rewatch that fight? And are you going to be excited to talk about it the next day? Probably not. But in the moment, those types of fights are good, just to let it play out and see what happens. Again, like, to your point though, is that what you need to build up a title fight? I don't know. And I don't know if any of those contenders, to be honest with you, are going to do a lot for pay-per-view sales either way. If Edwards wins, is there really going to be a large contingent of people that are going to be excited to see him fight Usman? Not to the point to where they were as excited to see Masvidal fight Usman, right? And I think that's the same with Wonderboy or Edwards, whoever you stick in there. If it's Chimaev, then that's different. Then you got a whole another group of people interested in watching that fight. But either way it goes, man, whoever they end up sticking in there, I think it's going to be, it's going to be a good fight. It's not going to be like one of the best fights of the year. I mean, it could be. I'm talking about like on paper anticipating, like a lot of people are anticipating Poirier versus McGregor too, right? New and improved Poirier rather against McGregor, who's been off, doing whatever, raising his kids and, living his $100 million lifestyle now with his proper 12. So, that's an interesting anticipated fight. And I don't know if fans are going to be as excited about whichever title fight comes at 170 next.
Yeah, I'd agree with that wholeheartedly, especially if they don't get Chimaev in there somehow, right? Yeah. And with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to if they don't book Edwards versus Chimaev for a third time. If that's done, we've looked at Edwards' potential matchups. Who do you want to see Chimaev fight next?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on if they book a fight between these guys, right? Obviously, since you tried to schedule him against number 3, you have to schedule him at least against a top 5 opponent now. So one of those guys hanging around the top 5 at 170, that's the bar that you set UFC for Chimaev currently. If he shows up and fights some guy right out of the top 15, like what? What are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. So they kind of pigeonholed themselves here into a situation where these guys are going to have to fight him with a very, very low number next to their name.
Yeah. And, I just thinking about what we went over, I'm thinking basically the opposite of that business problem we talked about if you do Edwards and Wonderboy.
Yeah.
I think you get the business is booming show with Masvidal versus Chimaev. I think that right there leapfrogs that next person into immediate title contention with a lot of hype behind them. Because if Chimaev goes in there and smashes Masvidal, you could best believe his star is going to, double, triple overnight. Easy. It's going to be a huge deal. If Masvidal goes in there, just pieces up Chimaev, finishes Chimaev, who knows? Right? Because it's unlikely, if those two got in the cage, I would imagine it would be unlikely it ends at the end of 5 rounds. I think it probably ends in a stoppage, or at least some crazy war on the route to those 5 rounds. If Masvidal gets past Chimaev, I think that just reignites, that fire and that, hype behind Masvidal, and he gets another crack at Usman with a full camp. And I'm sure they'd use that as an excuse. So I like that fight a ton for Chimaev myself.
Yeah, I like that fight. And I mean, just to name the other name that's not in the top 5 that we haven't mentioned yet, I mean, it's Colby Covington is the only other name out there. And I like Chimaev versus Colby Covington. I just like the idea of what can happen in that fight, for the fan side of it in me. I won't go much more. Anyways, yeah. I mean, Colby Covington, you throw him in there against Leon Edwards right now, like, I think Colby wins that fight. Honestly, I think he does. Listen, Colby's one of the best in the world, arguably the second best at 170 right now. And until a guy like, Chimaev gets his shot at him or whatever have you. But I think, regardless of how you feel about him, in his antics, the guy's proven he's one of the best in the world. So, yeah, it would be an interesting matchup to see how Edwards versus Covington would play out. But obviously, Burns and Usman is supposed to happen for the title. Maybe. Who knows? It's kind of a mess at 170 right now, man. There's a lot of things that can shake out over these first couple of months in 2021. The picture is very foggy right now. I will say that. But I mean, right outside of the top 5, you got a lot of question marks too in number 6 and 7. Tyron Woodley and then Damian Maia right behind him. So what's going to happen there? I don't think either one of those names sneak into this conversation.
No, I don't think so either, especially after Woodley's last couple performances. I think he if anything, he needs a step down in competition to kind of rebound or something, because I don't imagine he would want to take a Chimaev fight anytime soon. And Damian Maia, I love him, and if it was a grappling match, sure, I'd love to see that. But I also have seen Damian Maia get starched by Gilbert Burns, and I think Chimaev could easily do the same to him. So, if you want to play that game, we can, but I don't see, Maia doing anything to Chimaev that Burns didn't, and or that Burns, in that particular situation. And let's not forget that we did have Maia versus Chimaev originally supposed to be scheduled way back when, right? That was originally supposed to be his foray into the ranking. So it's possible they rebooked that, but Maia's also talked about retirement. I can't imagine that they're going to send Maia off on a Chimaev fight, but they've done crazier things.
You're not lying about that. You're not lying about that. I mean, I could think of all the matchups BJ Penn was given, in the twilight of his career, where it's just like, why are y'all making this? It could happen. It could very well happen. I think we just jinxed it. Maia versus Chimaev coming up in March.
Let us know who you think Chimaev is going to be matched up with, who you think Edwards is going to be matched up. If you think they're going to try and get together a third time, let us know how you feel about this fight getting canceled again. Mr. Wells, anything to cap this one off?
No, man, it's unfortunate. We're entering a new year with a lot of uncertainty in this division. I just want the title picture to be clear in one of the best divisions in all of MMA and especially in the UFC. So hopefully things can shake out pretty quickly here in a couple of weeks, and we get some new news that we can report back to you guys here on the Body Lock. And, hopefully things can get settled out.
Yeah, hopefully so. Hope your holidays were great. Hope you have a great new year. And just let's hope for Chimaev versus someone. We have bills to pay, please. Please, UFC.
Yes.